Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Pakistan says India's steps for demographic changes in occupied Jammu and Kashmir are condemnable. President Arif Alvi was addressing a session of the Azad Kashmiri Legislative Assembly on Kashmir Solidarity Day. He said the Pakistani leadership has always supported the struggle of Kashmiris and also raised voice for Muslims in India. Meanwhile, in a trade, Prime Minister Imran Khan said 7 decades of Indian occupation have failed to weaken the resolve of Kashmiris. The Afghan government says 16 soldiers have been killed and 2 others wounded in a Taliban attack in northern Kunduz district. Kunduz officials say 2 security personnel were taken hostage during the raid on an outpost. The Taliban are yet to comment on the attack. President Joe Biden says the United States will no longer support a Saudi-led military offensive in Yemen. In his first visit to the State Department as president, Biden said the war, which has created a humanitarian catastrophe, has to end. The U.S. death toll from COVID-19 has surpassed 455,000, with 40,000 deaths recorded in just the last 2 weeks. Pakistan has recorded more than 1,300 cases and 53 fatalities in the last 24 hours. The nationwide death toll has risen to 11,886. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 2.2 million lives and infected over 104 million. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan and Kashmiris across the globe are observing Kashmir Solidarity Day in support of the people of occupied Kashmir. In his message, President Arif Alvi said the day is not far when Kashmiris will be freed from the clutches of Indian occupation. President Alvi attended the session of Azad Kashmir Legislative Assembly to mark Pakistan's unshakable resolve to stand by its Kashmiri brethren. Meanwhile, in a tweet, Prime Minister Imran Khan vowed to support Kashmiris until they attain their right to self-determination. Speaking at a rally in Islamabad, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said the rogue Indian state cannot suppress the unshakable resilience of Kashmiris. In a tweet, the Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa called for resolving the issue as per the aspirations of Kashmiri and the United Nations resolutions. Kashmiris and Pakistanis around the world are observing Kashmir Solidarity Day. The day highlights the plight of Kashmiris and reminds the world community of its obligations towards the resolution of the long-standing dispute. More in this report by our correspondent Isa Naqvi from Islamabad.
As Kashmiris continue to reel under India's inhuman curfew and communications blackout, the people of Pakistan are renewing their pledge to support their legitimate struggle for freedom.
Indian oppression of the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is now over 7 decades old. But the issue has acquired a new dimension since India's illegal, inhuman and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019. A new reign of terror, a new reign of state-sponsored terrorism has been unleashed in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Pakistan's Foreign Office has reminded the international community of its obligations to help Kashmiris get their rights.
The international community must speak up for the rights of the Kashmiri people. The international community must censure India for its egregious human rights violations in IIO-JK. And more importantly, the international community must play its role in seeking a resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, and the resolution in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions.
Hundreds of Kashmiris have been killed since India revoked the valley's special status in August 2019. While thousands have been languishing in Indian jails, they are awaiting for the world to listen to their voice. Isa Naqvi, Indus News, Islamabad.
It has been 18 months since India revoked occupied Jammu and Kashmir's special status. New Delhi's decision brought the further pain to Kashmiris already facing brutal suppressions and striving for freedom. This report has more.
Pakistan has been observing the Kashmir Solidarity Day since 2004, but the day has taken a newfound importance ever since India revoked the special status of the occupied valley in August 2019. Since then, the entire population of the territory has been languishing under a crippling lockdown and severe communications blockade. Occupied forces have martyred over 300 Kashmiris in fake encounters in the last 18 months alone, while the key Kashmiri leaders have either been imprisoned or put under house arrest. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has converted the occupied valley into the world's largest prison for the past 18 months. Around 900,000 Indian troops have been deployed in occupied Kashmir to terrorize the 8 million people living there. In its report last year, the UN highlighted serious human rights abuses by Indian occupying forces in the valley. These range from mass killings, enforced disappearances, torture, and sexual abuse to brazen suppression of freedom of speech. New Delhi has systematically targeted media in the occupied valley. Despite India's atrocities in the territory, Pakistan says it will never let anyone take away Kashmir from the Kashmiris and has urged the international community not to walk away from its responsibility to help resolve the decades-long dispute.
In Pakistan, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi led a rally on the occasion of Kashmir Solidarity Day. The event expressed support with the population of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. For more on this, let's speak to our correspondent, Samara Khan. Samara, now what can you tell us about this rally and who has participated and where it has ended?
Yes, the rally was held as the first event of the day in Islamabad, capital of Pakistan, and it was led by Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. It was also the first event of the day on February 5th, the day which is observed to express solidarity with the people of besieged Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And along with Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Foreign Secretary Sohail Mahmood and spokesperson Foreign Office Zahid Hafiz were also present at the occasion. The rally was carried out by Foreign Office officials, and it culminated in front of the Parliament at D Chowk. And before it was culminated, Chairman Senate Sadiq Sinjarani and other members of the Parliament they joined the rally with the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. I spoke to one of the Parliamentary Secretary of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Simi Ezdi. She also confirmed that not only the capital of Pakistan, but they are organizing many events across Pakistan to express their unanimous solidarity with the people of besieged valley in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, thank you, Samara Khan. Now, for more on this, we have Major General Ijaz Avan retired with us. Mr. Avan, thank you so much for your time. Now, in the past couple of years, global awareness of the plight of Kashmiris under Indian occupation has increased. What do you believe are the reasons behind this?
Well, I can't hear you clearly. Can you put the sound right?
All right. Is my voice audible right now, sir?
Voice, so you are not audible clearly.
My question
can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you very well, Mr. Avan. Now, my question is that in the past couple of years, global awareness in the plight of Kashmiris under Indian occupation has increased. What do you believe are the reasons behind this?
Well, global awareness has increased, there is no doubt, because India has gone an extra mile in doing the atrocities in Kashmir. In fact, whatever India is doing has not been responded to by the international community and the UN resolutions have been disregarded, and yet there is no considerable or action of consequence from United Nations or the powerful five or the permanent five members. And there is no relief to the people of Kashmir. They have not, the curfew has not been lifted, the clampdown on the media has not been lifted, international observers have not been given the access to see the conditions, what's being done in Kashmir. And they have picked up the over 80,000 since 1989. They have picked up the dead bodies. The women are being raped. Pellet guns are being used. Individuals are being used as a human shield. And yet, there is no considerable pressure on India which forces her to change its policy towards Kashmir.
Now, General Avan, in the aftermath, the EU lab report and the dossier given to the United Nations by Pakistan exposing Indian state terrorism. Do you believe that the international community is doing enough to hold New Delhi accountable?
Well, Pakistan is trying its level best, and they have exposed Indian atrocities and whatever India is doing in Kashmir. But unfortunately, international community is not doing enough. There has been just a voice raised in the British Parliament, but no action of consequence has been taken. No pressure has come on India. From America, there is a complete silence. From the United Nations, there is complete silence on the issue of Kashmir, and there is no pressure on India. So unfortunately, I would say that people, the atrocities being done in Kashmir by the Indians have not been heeded to by the international community, which is very unfortunate, and people of Kashmir are suffering.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Major General Ijaz Avan. Now, moving on, the Afghan government says 16 soldiers have been killed and 2 others wounded in a Taliban attack in the northern Kunduz district. Kunduz officials say 2 security personnel were taken hostage during the raid at an outpost. The Taliban are yet to comment on the attack. Meanwhile, in another incident, 5 soldiers were killed and many were taken in hostage in the northern province of Faryab. The provincial governor accused the Taliban of carrying out the attack, claiming Afghan forces also killed 15 fighters. Indian police have registered a case against a family of a farmer who died under mysterious circumstances during anti-government protests. Police say his family insulted the Indian flag after a video of the last rites showed his body draped in the tricolor. 30-year-old Bhavinder Singh died on the 24th of January after going missing a week earlier. Authorities say he died in an accident, but his family refuses to believe that. Singh's brother said farmers are fighting for the country like soldiers, so draping the body in the flag was a patriotic gesture. Religious and farmer representatives have condemned the police action and warned of a massive agitation if the FIR is not withdrawn. Meanwhile, police have put iron nails, barbed fence, and barriers on New Delhi's borders with Noida, Singhu, Tikiri, and Ghazipur. The move comes ahead of the nationwide wheel jam strike announced by the farmers on the 6th of February. The Congress has also slammed the government, saying it has turned India into the internet shutdown capital of the world. Over 175 farmers have died, with several committing suicide over new farm laws, which they say expose them to corporate exploitation. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Israeli army has fatally shot a Palestinian west of Ramallah in the central West Bank. Officials say the body of the martyr is still in the custody of Israeli occupation authorities. They say the Israeli army has barred entry into Ras Karkar, also preventing those inside the village from leaving. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces confirmed the incident, saying it is conducting a search operation in the area. President Joe Biden says the United States will no longer support a Saudi-led military offensive in Yemen. In his first visit to the State Department as president, Biden said the war, which has created a humanitarian catastrophe, has to end. He said diplomacy is back at the center of Washington's foreign policy. More in this report.
Ever since stepping into the Oval Office, President Biden has wasted no time in reversing U.S. policies during the past 5 years. After making major changes in the domestic domain in the first week of his presidency, Biden laid out his foreign policy vision during a speech at the State Department. While he fulfilled one of the key campaign promises by ending support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen, Biden pledged to defend the kingdom against all threats.
This war has to end. And to underscore our commitment, we are ending all American support for offensive operations in the war in Yemen, including relevant arms sales. At the same time, Saudi Arabia faces missile attacks, UAV strikes, and other threats from Iranian-supplied forces in multiple countries. We're going to continue to support and help Saudi Arabia defend its sovereignty and its territorial integrity and its people.
Contrary to his predecessor, Biden took a more stringent approach to Washington's ties with Moscow. He said the days of the U.S. rolling over in the face of Russia's aggressive actions, election interference, cyber attacks, and poisoning its citizens are over. Biden also approved an executive order to restore refugee admissions and to raise them back up to 125,000 persons annually.
Saudi Arabia has welcomed U.S. President Joe Biden's commitment to a diplomatic solution to Yemen's war. In a statement, the foreign minister said that Riyadh lauds Washington's pledge to help the kingdom defend its territory. Riyadh affirmed that the kingdom's steadfast position in supporting a comprehensive political solution to the Yemen crisis. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said Riyadh looks forward to work with the United States ambassador to the kingdom, Tim Lenderking. He said the foreign ministry will work with Lenderking to achieve resolution in Yemen for a peaceful and prosperous region. In Myanmar, another leader of National League for Democracy Party, Win Myint, has been arrested as the military tightens its grip after the coup. This comes as the United Nations Security Council called for the detainees to be freed. Myint is a stalwart of Aung San Suu Kyi and a longtime political prisoner during decades campaigning to end the army rule. He said he was being taken by police officers in a car from Yangon to the capital, Naypyidaw. But Myint did not say what the charges he could face. Some 147 people have been detained since the coup, including activists, lawmakers, and officials from Suu Kyi's government. Meanwhile, Indonesia and Malaysia are seeking a ASEAN meeting on Myanmar. The United States death toll from COVID-19 has surpassed 455,000, with 40,000 deaths recorded in just the last 2 weeks. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 2.2 million lives and infected over 104 million. More in this report.
While the COVID-19 pandemic has spurred global efforts to find a cure, it has also exposed the vulnerabilities of governance systems. Brazil's prosecutor general has opened an investigation into the country's president and the health minister for negligence in response to the outbreak in Manaus City. Frustration is also mounting in Mexico as the government's vaccine registration website crashed for a third day in a row. And in Mexico City, restaurant owners are protesting lockdown restrictions that they say will put them out of business. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson has asked U.S. health regulators to authorize its single-dose COVID-19 vaccine after the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported at least 618 variants from across 33 U.S. states. The U.S. Senate, meanwhile, has voted to exclude upper-income Americans from a new round of direct payments to help stimulate the economy.
We were running about 200,000 on initial jobless claims for many years before that. So this is still a very elevated level of weekly claims, and it shows the extreme damage that's been done to the unemployment picture here in the U.S. from the COVID event.
In Europe, Catalonia's regional authorities are set to hold elections amid the third wave of the disease. Sweden says it will start developing digital vaccine certificates to be used for travel, following a similar move by Denmark. Meanwhile, Germany has strongly criticized the European Commission's COVID-19 vaccine strategy. And in England, Aston Villa's football grounds have been turned into a vaccination center to inoculate at least 1,500 people a day.
It would have certainly seemed an incredible observation, but now that we're a year in, it seems very much the right thing to do. I'm incredibly proud that today Aston Villa is able to facilitate a vaccination centre opening in the heart of our community, and that's the right thing for football to be doing, where we can't engage with our fans live in matches, to use our facilities and our people to try and make a difference in the local community.
Iran has received 10,000 doses of Russia's Sputnik 5 as Tehran's first foreign-made vaccine. Meanwhile, in search for clues to the origins of the new coronavirus, the World Health Organization-led team says China's bat caves need to be explored to trace the genetic elements of the virus.
While in Pakistan, 53 people have died from COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. The country's death toll has risen to 11,886. The health ministry says reported 1,302 new infections overnight. The ministry says out of nearly 552,000 cases detected so far, over 507,000 have recovered. It added the number of active COVID-19 cases has crossed 32,000. The ministry said nearly 2,000 patients across the country are in a critical condition. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has rejected a request from Democrats to testify at his impeachment trial in the Senate. Trump's advisor Jason Miller said that the president will not testify in an unconstitutional proceeding. In an open letter, the former president's attorney called the request a public relations stunt. They said Trump has within his rights in rejecting the request. The lawyer said that the burden is on the House to prove their case. Earlier, the lead impeachment manager urged Trump to provide his testimony under an oath either before or during the trial next week. Trump faces charges of inciting insurrection over the 6th January riots, which left 5 people dead in Capitol Hill. In Belgium, a court has convicted an Iranian diplomat over a thwarted 2018 bombing of an exiled opposition group outside Paris. Belgian prosecutor lawyers said that the Vienna-based diplomat Asadullah Assadi was guilty of attempted terrorism. Assadi has been handed a 20-year sentence, while 3 accomplices were given jail terms and were stripped of their Belgian citizenship. The ruling marked the first trial of an Iranian official for suspected terrorism in the EU since Iran's revolution in 1979. Responding, Iran slammed the Belgian court's decision and termed the judicial process and the recent sentencing as illegal. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh said the sentencing violates international law. The United Nations says elections this year in the occupied Palestinian territories will be a crucial step towards Palestinian unity. In an address, United Nations Secretary General welcomed the announcement by President Mahmoud Abbas. Antonio Guterres said that the vote will give renewed legitimacy to national institutions in Palestine. He said elections are vital for building a democratic Palestinian state founded on the rule of law with equal rights for all. The Palestinian legislative election are set to take place on the 22nd of May, followed by the presidential poll on the 31st of July. In Lebanon, a prominent Hezbollah critic, Luqman Slim, has been found dead in a car in the southern part of the country. Authorities say Salim's body has 4 bullets in the head and 1 in the back. Salim spoke against what he saw as Hezbollah's intimidation tactics and accused them of intolerance of other political views. Lebanon's caretaker interior minister said Salim died in a terrifying crime and pledged to pursue the case. Authorities investigating the case said that the motive was not immediately clear. The United Nations says measles has resurfaced in North and South Ubangi provinces of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The United Nations Office for Coordination and Humanitarian Affairs said many of the cases are complicated and associated with malnutrition. In a statement, it said that the cases have risen to 4,500 since an outbreak in December last year. The statement said that the disease mostly affects children under 5 years. It said humanitarian partners are conducting assessments to prepare for potential intervention. The OCHA said 2 other health zones are also being monitored where cases have been notified. Britain has called for a compromise to heal the decades-old division of Cyprus ahead of upcoming UN-led talks. In a press conference with his Cypriot counterpart, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said failure to reach a settlement would benefit no one. He urged all sides to come to the talks with a willingness to demonstrate flexibility. Rob said that the event will be attended by a three-day UN summit in early March, along with the foreign ministers of Greece and Turkey. The island of Cyprus has been split into two administrations, one in the north and one in the south, since 1974. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will postpone a trip to the UAE and Bahrain planned for next week. In a statement, Prime Minister's office said that the delay comes due to Israel's COVID-19 lockdown. Last month, Israel banned international flights and closed its land borders as part of its virus measures. Netanyahu had scheduled trips to the UAE, but they were delayed by political turmoil and the pandemic. In Bangladesh, a court has jailed 50 opposition activists for up to 10 years for an attack on the incumbent prime minister's motorcade in 2002. The prosecutor said 3 convicts, included a former parliamentarian, were given 10 years of jail, while the rest got jailed to other terms. 12 of the convicts are currently on the run. In 2002, the motorcade accompanying then opposition leader Sheikh Hasina had been attacked with rocks and batons. The attack was one of many assassination attempts on the prime minister. The new U.S. administration has reaffirmed recognition of Juan Guaido as Venezuela's legitimate president. It also says Washington does not plan to engage with President Nicolas Maduro. In a press briefing, a State Department spokesperson said that the United States will be targeting Venezuelan officials involved in human rights abuses. Ned Price said that the new administration will collaborate with allies to bring about progress towards democracy in Venezuela. He said that the main goal of the United States is to support the democratic transition in Venezuela through free and fair elections. Dozens of countries recognize Guaido as the leader of the country, but last week the European Union states said they no longer considered him the interim president. Diners in Malaysia can now devour meals from inside their cars. A restaurant on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur has opened a drive-in service for people longing to dine out amid COVID-19. Details of this ingenious restaurant in this report.
The new coronavirus pandemic has forced everyone to come up with creative ways to make ends meet while also maintaining safety. Keeping that in mind, the Paddy House restaurant in Cyberjaya City is offering food without having to leave one's car. The restaurant has ceased dine-in services since the first movement control measures kicked in last March.
Today I am having lunch by myself. It's difficult to think where you want to drop by to buy food. But now I know that there's a drive-thru, so I just want to try it out and have a feel. It's okay and convenient.
Each set of the meal comes with a customized tray to fit in the narrow space between driver's seat and the steering wheel. This enables the customers to enjoy the food without any hassle. The owner of the restaurant says he was inspired by the airline meals.
Of course, to make it more interesting, the idea I said was share I will get from the set hidangan kabau the bank. Actually, like people that are going out to work so hard, they wish to have a proper dinner, proper meal. So we come up with when you order the main course, they are set. So we are given together the drinks and the dessert. Maybe for the lunchtime, the weather is hot. You know, Malaysia weather is very hot. So we are given the ice cream also.
Malaysia is currently in its second nationwide lockdown since the first coronavirus case was uncovered in January last year. But this time, small businesses are allowed to continue operating, much to the relief of both diners and restaurant owners.
European stocks have edged up as investors look to vaccine rollouts for hopes of normalization, while global markets flirt with record highs. Italy's FTSE MIB is leading the gains, adding nearly 1.5%. The CAC 40 in Paris has ascended over 1%. Frankfurt's DAX and London's FTSE have also edged up marginally. Earlier, Asian bourses traded higher following positive sentiment in the United States. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.